Welcome to the iPrint migration demonstration. This is a training and a demonstration, and we're going to talk about migrating iPrint from NetWare to Linux. And here's an outline of the first video. We're going to talk about what the iPrint migration is and what it is not. First of all, the migration, it does not migrate your environment from one server to another. It rather duplicates your environment from one server to another. Let me explain what I mean by this. This is, in our demonstration, this is my NetWare print manager in my tree that I have. I have only 5 printers, and if we want to look a little bit more detail of what I have configured for these 5 printers, we can generate a report, look at what drivers I have associated, what printer driver profiles, and I have a Windows 7 64-bit. We'll generate this report. We can see that I have Windows XP drivers associated with my printer agents. I have Windows 7 64-bit print drivers associated, and I have one profile created and associated to a printer. All this configuration plus more the IP addresses, which we'll look at right now. These will be transferred over to or copied over, duplicated over to the Linux server. If you see right now, I have a Linux print manager up and running. I called it LX Print Manager, and notice it doesn't have any printer agent information. Typical migration, of course, will have a lot more printers than 5. And the great thing about the iPrint migration tool is it automates all that duplication. You could go into iManager and manually create every single one of these objects with all of their drivers and IP addresses and whatever configuration you may have on them. I'll give you a glance. For example, I have secure enabled on one of them, auditing enabled on another, LPR support enabled for one, iPrint Direct for another. All of this configuration information, profiles and others, will be automated and duplicated over to the destination server, which is the Linux server. Once again, you could manually create all of that, but this tool automates that. So it is not a migration tool, it is rather a duplication tool. And when the migration is finished, your users will continue to print through your NetWare print environment. You'll see that the print jobs will increment here on this print manager status page and will continue to do so until you instruct your clients to print to the new server, which we will talk about that in greater depth in later videos. And as I said, this is duplicating the server configuration, not the clients. Now, the implications of this being a duplication tool is that whether this migration succeeds or fails, it really doesn't matter a whole lot to your end users. They continue to print to the NetWare server. So in a way, it's a risk-free migration, as long as you're doing a consolidate migration. If you're doing a transfer ID and let's say the migration didn't succeed in some ways or in many ways, if you do a transfer ID, and we'll talk about this later, you'll be decommissioning your NetWare server, and of course nobody will be printing to your NetWare server once it's decommissioned. But if you do a consolidation migration, which I recommend, and we'll talk more about that later, this is risk-free, and it does not change your end user printing path. So this video series covers the introduction, which is almost done. This is this part of the video. We'll talk about the iPrint clients, how they communicate to the print manager, and how to transition them to the to print to the Linux server when that time comes, and how to be in a recommended configuration for that. I'm going to demonstrate how to get your iPrint clients in a recommended situation, which we'll talk more about that. And I'll give an actual tour and demonstration of an actual migration of these 5 printer agents, and we'll view the iPrint migration results.